the videos off. Questions will be asked in the end of the session, so please leave your queries in the chat box in the last 20 minutes. The attendance will be marked by the organizers, so please don't leave text in the chat box. Handing over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I must thank Law Shastra for giving me this opportunity to share my views and thoughts on this very crucial and important legislation, that is Commercial Courts Act 2018, which got amended, which got introduced in the year 2015. So, why I chose this topic to present before you was because, unfortunately, not many people know about this Act, Commercial Courts Act 2018. This act was basically brought in the system to tackling the ease of doing business and reviving the economy by bringing the investments to the country from the offshores. Why? Because the foreign investments were reluctant to come to India, and investing in the country was a big problem for them. Why? Because the civil disputes, the commercial disputes in the civil matters, in the civil courts, were taking too long to adjudicate, and therefore they were very reluctant. And also there was also another reason. So basically, in 2009, 188th Amendment gave this opinion that we should come up with Commercial Courts Act. Why? Because we need to shorten this gap of adjudicating the commercial court, commercial matters, and therefore we need to bring this amendment. And fortunately, with 243rd Amendment in 2015, the legislature brought this amendment by passing this bill and converting into an act. And in 2018, they brought some changes, which I'll be definitely sharing with you in while in the presentation will be going on. So basically, this act is a very important and is a very modern piece of legislation, and is definitely going to be a pilot project for the future legislations to come in future. So let me give you a brief idea what was the need and why the legislation thought about this act, by introducing this act in this legal system. So courts across this world were saying that Indian courts are not highly evolved and developed. The situation of a country's courts are highly deplorable, and that is the only reason the Commission 243rd Commission thought by bringing the particular act in existence. And thereafter, in 2015, when the bill was passed, the government wanted to bring some real changes. So they brought several amendments to the CPC. They brought several schedules in the Commercial Act by making it a time-bound legislature. And therefore, the bill is very important legislation, as it would be a test tube for all the resolutions in the manner in which we will be handling all the civil litigations in future. I'm sure in coming 10 to 15 years, the legislature would also be bringing some amendments to the, maybe amendments, or maybe they would be entirely changing the civil procedure code also, in order to make it expeditious, make it time bound. Why? Because in India, we all know what is the situation of the courts are. Every matter takes, civil disputes basically takes 10, 15, 20. You can't know, you don't know how much time that matter going to take. And that was the only reason, in order to make their image, to better their image in the World Forum, they brought this amendment. So it's a very small legislation of only comprising of 23 sections. And with why? Because it's a procedural law, basically. It's not a substantive law, just like CPC, civil procedure law, we have. Similarly, this act will be laying the foundation of how commercial dispute should be or shall be proceeded. So now the question is, what are we trying to achieve by this Commercial Codes Act 2018? So in my opinion, there are three aims which it tries to achieve. First aim, it tries to lay down a hierarchy of the courts. So instead of civil courts, which used to deal with commercial disputes or matters, now what they've done is, what this act has done is, it has introduced a new league of courts, which would be known as commercial courts. So I would be talking about how these commercial courts have been divided into different parts across the country. Second aim, which it tries to bring or achieve, is that I've stated, that it tries to make the litigation time bound. How that now they're going to be only one appeal, because in earlier matters, in civil disputes, as we know, all the advocates and all the students who are participating in this webinar all know how time taking all these disputes are, because we keep on filing revisions and appeals and appeals, and therefore our matters in order to come to the end, it takes a lot of years. So the second aim is by confining it to only one appeal. Why? Because if they're going to be also, they're going to be no intra courts appeal, no second appeal. Of course, Supreme Court stands on a different footing. You always have the option of filing SLPs under Article 136. Why? Because the lesser the number of appeals, the duration to adjudicate the matter would also be therefore less, and therefore the objective of this legislation would be achieved. That's what the idea is. The third feature is that they have laid down numerous commercial disputes. So under Section 2C of the Commercial Courts Act, they have laid down 22 commercial disputes, commercial matters which can be adjudicated under Commercial Courts Act. They can vary from mercantile law, partnership acts, anything, even the transactions or the disputes arising out of the land will also be adjudicated under commercial disputes. Even the jurisdictions in respect to the commercial dispute where the land has been offered as the security or has been mortgaged will also be under the jurisdiction of the Commercial Disputes Commercial Courts Act. So basically, these are the three main aims which this particular act tries to achieve. Now, how this hierarchy of the courts has been divided. So as we all know that in this country, there are 5 original jurisdiction courts. One is Chennai, Madras High Court. The other one is Bombay High Court. Third one is Calcutta High Court. Fourth one is Delhi High Court. And fifth one is Himachal Pradesh High Court. The reason of Himachal Pradesh, why? Because it has been, infected from the Delhi High Court itself only. What is the meaning of original jurisdiction? The meaning of original jurisdiction is that to some limited pecuniary jurisdiction, those high courts have the power to behave as a trial court. The judges of the high court go through all the evidences, cross-examinations, pleadings, and then they adjudicate the matter. Just similarly, the other parts of the country where we deal, or the district courts also, where we deal with the matters. So there have been 4 different categories of courts which have been introduced. When it comes to the non-original jurisdiction areas, excluding Madras, Calcutta, Bombay, Himachal, and Delhi, the commercial courts, instead of district courts, they're going to be commercial courts. Below, now the appeal, for example, if there's an appeal which lies from that particular adjudication, where that appeal would be, that appeal going to be the commercial division courts. And when it comes to the matters which are which would be adjudicated through the by the original jurisdiction courts, the courts which have been introduced going to be commercial division in high courts, and for appeal going to be the commercial appellate division courts. Now what is important is that in 2015 the pecuniary jurisdiction of commercial disputes were considered to be 1 crore, but unfortunately that jurisdiction has been brought down to rupees 3 lakh. Now the reason was that there was a huge discussion that in the legislature that what we are trying to do is we are only trying to bring a 5-star culture in litigation by making a cap of 1 crore jurisdiction. Why? Because only the matters, with big stakes will only be adjudicated by the Commercial Courts Act. And what about those matters which are below 1 crore? And therefore, in 2018, they brought this amendment by reducing the limit from 1 crore to 3 lakhs. Now, the courts where the matters are below 1 crore, for example, where they do not have any original jurisdiction, from 3 lakh to 1 crore, or for example, in Delhi High Court, the original jurisdiction, pecuniary jurisdiction is 2 crores. So, for example, let me take an example of Delhi High Court. The commercial disputes ranging from 3 lakh rupees to 2 crore rupees would be adjudicated at the district level, which would be commercial courts. The matters with the higher pecuniary jurisdiction, that is about 2 crores, would be adjudicated by the commercial divisions in high courts, going to be a single bench. The appeal, which lies post that, going to be adjudicated by the commercial appellate division courts, which would be a division bench headed by the 2 judges. So when it comes to the other jurisdictions, the commercial courts, which are below the district courts level, now sadly, the courts have not been constituted as far as we are concerned, and even the infrastructures have not been laid down in the entire country. For example, now if we talk about the courts of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, so now the problem over there is that the commercial activities are extremely weak over there. So we find a lot of difficulty even in putting some infrastructure. The government basically finds great difficulty in putting some infrastructure over there. Now, also there's also a problem with this Commercial Courts Act, that what they have done is they have not allocated new vacancies for these judges, and also they have not brought any new infrastructure for Commercial Courts Act. What they've done is they've, for example, in a particular court, there were 40 judges who were looking for the civil dispute matters. What they've done is they've said, look, you 35 judges, keep on looking at the civil matters or whatever. Now the remaining 5 would be looking at the commercial disputes. So what they've done is they've made a hodgepodge of the courts now, because definitely bringing the pecuniary jurisdiction of 3 lakhs will definitely include each and every, even a small aspect of a commercial dispute would be included in that. So definitely we can say that the whole purpose by which this whole amendment was brought down it doesn't make any sense now. But for example, even the disputes, even an agreement between 2 parties, for example, if I'm buying a second-hand Maruti car, will also be a part of commercial dispute now, which the legislation was not trying to bring in. But apparently it had to. Why? Because there were a lot of discussions, there were a lot of criticism against it, that, this way we are only trying to, exclude small agreements, small transactions. Also, now when coming to the next thing, now very importantly, what they've done is, if we come to the I'm sure that I don't know whether you people have a Commercial Courts Act in front of you or not, but if we read section 2C explanation B, what it states is, a commercial dispute shall not cease to be a commercial dispute merely because. This particular provision is very important. Let me explain you why. So it states that a commercial dispute shall not cease to be a commercial dispute merely because one of the contracting parties is the state or any of its agencies or instrumentalities or a private body carrying out public functions. What does this mean is, first of all, what does it remind you? It reminds you of writ jurisdictions, right? Writ petitions. So what is the purpose of this clarification in this statute? This is to take away all of us from using this tendency of writ jurisdictions to resolve commercial disputes and to channelize this to the commercial courts, basically. Now the question is, why are we getting rid of writ jurisdictions? And at the first instance, why were we using writ jurisdictions in commercial disputes? Why? Because our civil courts were not functioning too well, and therefore, in order to get a quick adjudication of the matter, we always used to take this particular path of filing writ petitions in the courts, and therefore, our orders also used to come very quickly. But now the legislation has thought, that's not a good idea. Why? Because if we bring writ jurisdictions in this particular act, then definitely it will defeat the purpose of time bound litigation, and therefore it will serve no purpose. And that is the only reason they have. So now the thing is, the writ jurisdiction, the writ petitions which we used to file in commercial disputes will not be allowed in under Commercial Courts Act. Why? Because see, there's already a provision under, I'll come to that. Section 13 talks about that there's only a provision of one appeal. So therefore, when we only have a one appeal, formula of one appeal, then definitely, and this, by virtue of this particular provision, this whole concept of writ petitions is excluded. So therefore, this is basically an attempt to persuade and try lawyers and litigants to resolve their commercial disputes not through Article 14, 19, or 21, but through this Commercial Courts Act. Now, coming to also this particular act, what it has done is, it has brought some amendments in the CPC, which is Civil Procedure Law, and also it has introduced few schedules also, which I would be discussing in detail, what those schedule means and what was the need in bringing the amendments in CPC. Let me give you a small, outline of this particular act. That what the main important thing is. Just a second. It seems my mic is off. Second. Yes. Yes. Sorry. So what happens is, what is the most important thing, I think, which this particular act tries to develop and introduce in this legal system is by bringing the case management. So what is the meaning of case management is that after the affidavit, after the summons is being sent by one party, that is the plaintiff to the defendant, under the case management system, the judge along with the lawyers from both the parties will sit together and will figure out the timeline that, on this particular date we'll be dealing with cross-examination, on this particular date we'll be filing the pleadings, on this particular date we'll be submitting our oral arguments or final arguments, and on this particular date a judgment would be served. So the whole purpose of case management is basically to make it a time bound, so that the matters can be adjudicated in a very short span of time. So now the problem is, why? See, earlier also this case management, this is a very new concept in this country. They're trying to bring by this act, and fortunately if this works, then it's possible that in future we'll be seeing this case management system in other acts also. For example, CPC, or maybe in CRPC also. So this particular case management basically is adopted not in our country, but in Western countries, for example, in US. So therefore, in my opinion, this is a very revolutionary step which this particular act has taken, because case management is a very new system. Also, previously in Delhi High Court have also tried to bring this particular case management, but few judges did not like this idea. Few judges liked the idea, but did not work. Why? Because there were not proper guidelines, there were not proper policies in order to how to proceed with that. There were many lawyers who were not comfortable with this case management. So therefore, I think if through this case management, if it works, then it's going to be a positive, going to have a positive impact in our legal fraternity, because we tend to prolong our matters day by day by taking dates, and in the sense and it takes 10 years, 12 years. Now, another important aspect of the Commercial Courts Act is they have also introduced a pre-mediation procedure, which I will be dealing along with this section when it will come, because I will be dealing it very effectively. What is the reason, and why there was no reason to bring that pre-mediation in this particular act. Now, then there are procedural changes which the act has brought in. The only reason for making and bringing these amendments is in certain provisions of CPC is because all this has been made time bound under the provisions of Commercial Courts Act. Now, for example, when we look at the inspection of the matter, inspection of the suit, or just let me open the sections first. It will be easy for me to take you through all that. So, for example, let me start from section. So let me start with section wise now. So section 8, if we come to section 8 talks about bar against a revision application or petition against an interlocutory order. So what this section talks about is that earlier what used to happen is in civil dispute matters is that the litigants, the lawyers always, even the courts always used to have the power to grant a revision petition. So what we used to do is, after every interlocutory order, we used to file the revision petition by prolonging the matter, day by day. And therefore, by virtue of this court, the revision application has been get rid of now. So now the only this now this has been one of the obsessions of the legislature to prevent the multiplicity of the court's proceedings, and therefore to avoid any delay in the proceedings. And therefore section 8 was incorporated under this act by getting side off of revisions against any orders and applications. Now coming to section 9 has been deleted under the amendment 2018, which talked about transfer of suits if counterclaim in a commercial dispute is of a specified value. So what does this mean is, let me explain you, because definitely it's of no use because it has already been deleted. But earlier, according to if we go back to 2015 Commercial Courts Act, so the pecuniary jurisdiction was 1 crore. The minimum pecuniary jurisdiction was rupees 1 crore. So what used to happen was, and now it's 3 lakh, it has been reduced to 3 lakhs. So what used to happen was that, for example, in a matters where the counterclaim has been filed, and the counterclaim, for example, the matter is of, for example, let us talk about, for example, the matter is of 10 lakh, and definitely 10 lakh matter would not come under Commercial Courts Act. And in counterclaim, the other party, the defendant's party, puts a claim of 1 crore rupees, then the matter would definitely be switched on to the Commercial Courts Act. So therefore, by lowering down the pecuniary jurisdiction now, what they've done is, now obviously there's no question of counterclaim now, because even if you file a counterclaim, then also you'll be included in the Commercial Courts Act. That is the only reason. Coming to section 10, which talks about the jurisdiction and respect of arbitration matters. What it talks about is that if such in arbitrations, including the international commercial arbitrations, all applications or appeals arising out of such arbitration under the provisions of the arbitration, for example, section 9 applications, section 11 applications, section 34 applications, would be filed in a high court. That means can only be heard and disposed of by the commercial divisions, where commercial division has been constituted in such those several high courts. But when it comes to any international arbitrations or arbitrations including the country only, then the matters where the original jurisdiction courts take place, the matters would be taken care by the commercial dispute division bench, and the appeals going to be taken care by the commercial division appellate courts. But when it comes to the matters which were lying in the district courts, for example, section 34 section application, which was already being adjudicated by the district court, that particular application will only be adjudicated by the commercial courts only, not by the commercial division courts. Why? Because for the district level, commercial courts have been introduced. Now coming to section 11, which is very important, section 11. Section 11 talks about bar of jurisdiction of a commercial courts and commercial divisions. What does this mean is that right now, currently, so for example, this talks about that all those matters which had this iota of commercial disputes shall be transferred to the Commercial Courts Acts. Now, what if the nature of those matters are commercial, but were not adjudicated by the civil courts? They had their proper authorities, by which they were being adjudicated, will not be brought under the Commercial Courts Act. This states that, notwithstanding anything contained in this act, a commercial court or a commercial division shall not entertain or decide any suit, application, or proceedings relating to any commercial dispute in respect of which the jurisdiction of the civil court is either expressly or impliedly barred under any other law for the time being in force. For example, Chit Funds Act. Now, all those matters related to Chit Fund Acts will not be adjudicated by the Commercial Courts Act. Those matters will be adjudicated by their own proper authorities itself. So that is the meaning of section 11. Now coming to section 12, talks about the pecuniary jurisdiction, which I have already discussed, that the jurisdictions have been brought down to 3 lakh and how they would be, for example, under Commercial Courts Act, what would be accepted? It can be accepted as, for example, it can be accepted, for example, as commercial disputes can also bring any movable properties, any immovable properties, right? So now coming to section 12A, which is very important. Now section 12A talks about pre-institution mediation and settlement. What this pre-institution mediation and settlement talks about: a suit which does not contemplate any urgent interim relief under this act shall not be instituted unless the plaintiff exhausts the remedy of pre-institution mediation in accordance with such manner. So for example, those matters which are not grave in nature, or maybe where the relief demanded is not very urgent, those matters can be sent to the pre-mediation system. Now I have a small little uneasiness with this manner in which this system can work when we bring this ADR in it. Why? Because the alternate dispute resolution system is not working properly in this country. Why? Because what I think is that in a manner, alternate, the thing is, what is alternate about alternate dispute system? If the government or the judiciary would keep having control over the system or keep intruding in this, then there will be nothing left alternative, about this particular ADR, which talks about the alternate dispute system. It has to be altogether a different body. This is a problem, that alternate dispute resolution is not working properly in India. And because we have legal service authorities attached to mediation centers, you have courts attached to the mediation centers, you have the government authorities which have been attached. So in order to effectively uh, you know have a success in adjudicating the matters through ADR, we need to bifurcate these two systems. So but definitely, the legislation must have something in their mind, by bringing mediation. And I think it's a fair thing, but it's a fair criticism also it will bring to along with it. So I think those matters which are not grave in nature, the reliefs which they are demanding is not grave in nature, will be sent to the pre-mediation center first. Now coming to section 13, which I dealt in, at the earliest, talks about the appeals from the decrees of commercial courts and commercial divisions. So any person aggrieved by the judgment or order of a commercial courts below the level of district judge may appeal to the commercial appellate court within a period of 60 days. Now it talks about only one particular appeal which will be filed against. So for example, there's a question which is involved regarding the jurisdiction of the matter. That's a very important question. For example, the jurisdiction of a matter is being involved in a particular case. You don't have the authority, or you don't have the right to file a revision or to appeal. Why? Because until unless the matter has been educated, or it's been finalized by the court, then only you get this right to file an appeal. And in that appeal only, you have to mention that what are the instances which you have, and in that appeal only you'll bring this question of jurisdiction. Then comes to transfer of pending cases. Now very importantly, this particular section, through this act, it only brings those particular cases which are pending in the civil courts, but it doesn't talk about the appeals which are pending in those district courts or high courts. It doesn't talk about. What about those appeals which also needs to be adjudicated by the Commercial Courts Act? It doesn't talk about. It only talks about those matters which are to be dealt by the Commercial Courts Act, and then those matters which are already pending in the courts would be transferred to the commercial courts, and not the appeals. Now coming to section 16 talks about the amendments, which I have already discussed, which I'll be discussing in detail in the schedules. So basically, schedule talks about the amendments which have been done in the CPC, and from chapter sections from section 17, 18, 19 and 21, there are miscellaneous sections which only talk about what the powers of the high courts to issue directions, training and continuous education. It's also very important. Why? Because in order to educate with this new act, with the new provisions. Why? Because this particular provision has brought case management, which will be dealing for the first time, right? So definitely there's a need to educate our judges, and along with the lawyers also, in order to make this a success, this particular provision, this act, a success. And now let's come to the schedules. I think all the sections must be very clear because it's a very small act. Now coming to schedules. In the schedules, the act talks about various timelines that have been laid down, that have been framed by the courts and litigants for the implementation of the act. So in terms of the amended provisions of, for example, section 35(2) of CPC, as a general rule, what they've done is, under this provision, any act, not any act, in the sense that any provision, for example, the plaintiff or the defendant. So for example, under the provisions of CPC, what used to happen is the costs which are being imposed on the party is mainly on the defendants only. Why? Because, for example, if they are not complying with the orders or directions of the court. But under this amendment of section 35, this unsuccessful party will be ordered to pay costs to the successful party, And in case the court seeks to deviate from the general rule, then it has to record the reasons for the same in writing. The costs can be imposed on the plaintiffs as well, and as well as on the defendants also. When it comes to the moving on, now it comes when a plaint is filed under the normal provisions of the CPC, the time frame which we receive, which we get, is to file the written statement is 30 days. But in circumstances, in exceptional circumstances, that 30 days is being increased always to 120 days. So earlier in many judgments, if you would have come across, it always states that even that 120 days is also discretionary. The Honorable Supreme Court has laid down in various landmark judgments that the time frame of filing the WS is 120 days. But in a recent judgment by the Supreme Court in 2019, they have made this particular provision as the mandatory provision by stating that 120th day going to be the final day, and there going to be no pardoning in that. We cannot show any mercy, and therefore they have taken away that discretionary value from that particular provision. So let me the case that that's a 2019 case. Let me give you the name of that case. The name of the case is Bharat Bhogilal Patel versus Leeds Tooling System India Private Limited. The citation is 2019 SEC Online, Bombay 890. Through this particular case, the discretionary right has been changed to the mandatory right of filing the WS within 120 days. Now the next is the provisions regarding the making denial of submissions, admission and denial. It's a very important stage in the part of litigation of in the commercial in the civil disputes. So now with this particular these particular amendments, the changes in the CPC, what they have done is that a party cannot merely deny the allegations which have been stated in the pleadings. They have to expressly deny those pleadings, the facts of the case. They just can't deny by stating that the particular fact is being denied and is being bereft of any merits. They have to explicitly make it clear on what grounds this particular fact is being denied, and what are the reasons behind that. And therefore they have brought some changes in that area of law also, by inserting rule 3 in the provision of order 8 rule 3, by stating that the admission denials of the submissions has to be stringent and has to be specific. Now coming to next, which is very important, is I think the last option which is left in this Commercial Courts Act is the summary judgment. What is the meaning of the summary judgment is? For example, the matter is being adjudicated, a plaintiff files the the plaint in the court, but the court finds that the facts of the case are not as such that we should go ahead with the case. Or the pleadings which have been filed by the defendant, and the court thinks that the defense which the defendant has taken, the defense is not as such that we should go ahead and take the oral recordings or the oral evidence. We should record the oral evidence, and therefore the court brings out with the summary judgment. So for example, also this concept of summary judgment is also under Order 37, which talks about the summary suits. So any matter which involves the expeditious clearing of the matters, for example, matters related to transactions, for example, now Commercial Courts Act have also Order 37 also. So under those particular disputes, the matters can be adjudicated through the summary judgment also. So basically, a court can grant a summary judgment against the plaintiff or the defendant if it considers that the plaintiff has no real prospect of succeeding on a claim, or the defendant has no real prospect of succeeding in defending the claim, And basically, the court has the power to grant summary judgment without recording the oral evidence in the suit, basically. So, at last, this is a very short legislation which has come into the piece of our legal world. And I'm sure that this would be, if we spend time, if the government also brings some changes, or spends some time, uh, then I think it can be a very successful thing. Why? Because in coming years, we need a lot of changes, because there's a huge problem in this country that the cases are being dealt for 20 years. So therefore, commercial cities, there are issues which would arise every day, and lawyers who have adopted the practice must make it a point to study this carefully, because there would be many issues that would arise, the controversies which would arise, which can be raised on everyday basis. So this law would be still a developing law. There are not many judgments in this particular act, and I'm very much sure that in coming 3-4 years there are going to be plethora of landmark judgments, which would be dealing with commercial courts, acts, commercial disputes. And therefore, the whole objective of this act should be a continuous training of the judges, and as well as the lawyers. And also the government must ensure and must be willing to spend extra money on its implementation, by bringing new vacancies, by bifurcating the judges for commercial disputes, and not by only sending those sitting judges to the commercial dispute cases, and by bringing new infrastructure. So with this, I think see, the only reason I chose this topic was not many students and lawyers are very well versed. Why? Because even in a lot of jurisdiction areas, this particular act is not working properly. And but as I am practicing in Delhi High Court, so we have, Delhi is filled with commercial disputes, and that is the only reason I've come up with this particular topic, which would I wanted to give this knowledge to everyone. Why? Because it's a very important piece of legislation. So with this, I would like to close my presentation, and would like to open the house for the questions. And I'm sure if I'm not able to answer, then we will try to learn from your own questions only. Thank you very much. Hello. Yes. No. No. So, very important question, actually. This is a very good question. So, uh, the thing is that this particular act, Commercial Courts Act, will have an overriding effect on all the other acts. For example, if we bring CPC also, if we bring IBC also, then the Commercial Courts Act will have an overriding effect on that. Then that is the only reason that that is why I at the initial stage of my presentation I said that this is a pilot project for other legislations and other acts also. And therefore, when it comes to, if there's a dispute, or between two provisions of different acts, if one act is a Commercial Courts Act, then the provisions of the Commercial Courts Act will prevail, and not the other act, even if it's Civil Procedure Code also.
Hi, Rahul. I hope you are doing well.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
I have one question to ask. So, as you said, when it comes to mortgage property dispute, or the dispute with regard to any automobile which come over 3 lakh rupees, so how this act gonna how this act gonna override the prevailing act, like Consumer Protection Act and SAFASI Act, in case of mortgage property?
See, it's a very important question actually. See, when it comes to Consumer Courts Act and all that, they only talk about, see, when it comes to Consumer Courts Act, you know, the matters which are involved in Consumer Courts Acts are of not high value in the sense. For example, but if we come to Section 2C of this particular act, it very categorically states that, you know, let me read Section 2C for everyone so that it becomes very clear that every movable property or immovable property will be considered as the commercial dispute. So for example, Section 2C talks about commercial disputes means a dispute arising of ordinary transactions of merchants, bankers, financiers, and traders, such as those relating to the mercantile documents, including enforcement and interpretation of such documents, export import, maritime law, carriage of goods, agreements, joint venture, shareholders. So definitely, you know, all these acts, consumer protection acts and all, they will be having definitely an overriding effect. But when it comes to the dispute between a Consumer Courts Act and the Commercial Courts Act, the matters which will be involved in the commercial disputes, for example, if the particular dispute is a commercial dispute, then the matter will be shifted to the Commercial Courts Act only and not to the Consumer Courts.
Okay, sir. Sir, thank you for the answer,
So
sir.
basically, you need to say that the matters which are particular pertaining to commercial activities,
Yes.
like
Yes, commercial activities, exactly. So what they've done is they've brought all the immovable properties, you know, as well as the movable properties under the commercial dispute. So for example, if I am buying a Maruti car also from you, that's going to be a commercial, you know, transaction, an agreement between both of us, right? So even if I'm purchasing a television worth rupees more than 3 lakh rupees from maybe any retailer from Chroma or Reliance Digital, that particular transaction also going to be a commercial transaction. Now that is a question which has to be adjudicated in a proper manner by the Honorable Supreme Court, that whether that purchasing, buying of that particular TV will come under the Commercial Courts Act, or will a person has to approach to the Consumer Courts Act. But the definition of the Commercial Courts Act is extremely wide. It seems, you know, they have brought each and every transaction under the Commercial Courts Act, from mercantile, from agreements, even your partnership agreements are also will be adjudicated under the Commercial Courts Act only.
yeah, thank you. So my other question was with regard to the mortgage of the property.
Yes.
Like you said, now the dispute with regard to the mortgage of the property will come under the ambit of Commercial Court Act.
Right.
So what about the SARFAESI? What would be the status of SARFAESI Act now? Like if we see as of today.
Yes. See, SARFAESI basically deals with the banks, right? Where the properties have been mortgaged, right? But I think when it comes to the commercial disputes, the reason by bringing mortgaging properties under the commercial disputes is that there are small properties where the banks do not want to get involved. For example, you know, there's a dispute between you and me, where the property has been mortgaged, definitely, but the court says, you know, the bank are unwilling to bring, you know, come in between, and therefore those kind of matters can be adjudicated by the Commercial Courts Act. For example, let me make you understand. See, SARFAESI comes into the place only when the issue is with the bank, right? If the party has defaulted in paying the bank its dues. But commercial disputes deals with the transactions between two private entities. For example, the dispute is between me and you. I have taken a property. For example, I have taken a loan from you and I mortgaged my property to you, for example, as a security. Then that particular dispute going to be adjudicated under Commercial Courts Act. That is the slight difference by bringing DRT, you know, Disputes Resolution Tribunals Act and Commercial Courts Act.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have a next question from a
Yes.
participant.
Yes.
Can a pending case in any civil court or in arbitration get transferred to the commercial court?
Can you please repeat? What was the first word which you said?
Can a pending case in any civil court or in arbitration get transferred to the commercial court?
Yes, yes, yes. Any, so section 30, just a second. Section 16, I think. Yes, section 15 very categorically states that any matters involving any commercial dispute which are lying in civil courts would be transferred to the commercial courts now. But it doesn't talk about any appeal. So for example, if there is an appeal which is pending before the civil court or the high court, which has a commercial dispute, the nature of that particular dispute is commercial, that particular appeal will not be transferred. But other than that, any matters which are pending, which are not appeals, will definitely be transferred. Every matter, you know, that matter has a dispute in the nature of commercial, you know, disputes, will definitely be transferred to all those commercial courts, depending on the jurisdiction, whether it's high court, whether it's district courts. Even the arbitration cases also. For example, section 9 applications, section 11 applications, section 34 applications also would be transferred to the respective jurisdictions of the commercial courts.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the answer, sir. Sir, next question from a participant is, can there be a revision application or petition against the interlocutory order passed in commercial court?
No, there cannot be. There cannot be. That is the only reason they have, you know, put a bar on filing revision petitions. Why? Because they want to make it a time bound. What would be the purpose of this particular act if they bring revisions also, right? And that is the only reason they have brought only one appeal under this particular act. So definitely revision, you cannot file any revision against any interlocutory orders. The only possible thing which you'll be having is only an appeal which will be filed after the matter is being adjudicated by the court, after the matter has been finalized by the court. Then only you only have the right of filing one appeal, no revision, nothing.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the answer, sir. Sir, the next question posed by a participant is, what is specified and commercial division of High Court?
What is specified?
Yes, sir.
What is the meaning of
specified and commercial division?
See, we need to understand the hierarchy of the courts first, which is the most important thing. Just a second. See, what is the meaning of commercial division court is. So, for example, we have 5 jurisdictions, right? Original jurisdictions. One is Bombay, one is Calcutta, one is Madras, one is Himachal Pradesh, and one is Delhi. So, in these particular jurisdictions, what happens is the high courts behave as a trial court for certain matters above certain pecuniary jurisdictions. For example, taking Delhi High Court, the Delhi High Court comes into the shoes of trial court when the dispute arising out of any situation is above 2 crore rupees. So in that particular situation, the matters which would be taken care by the High Court, the commercial disputes which would be taken care by the High Court, would be taken care by the commercial division bench. So for example, before that, before 2015, any commercial matters, which were being adjudicated by the High Court were only, there were no specific courts which were designed for that. But now specific courts have been designed by the legislation. So, for example, if any matter which is above the jurisdiction of rupees 2 crore, earlier it was being adjudicated by the normal courts in the High Court. Now they're going to be a special court for adjudication of that particular matter, and that particular court will be known as the Commercial Division Court. And appeal out of that particular Commercial Division Court would lie ahead before the Commercial Division Appellate Court, which will be headed by 2 judges. So that's going to be the procedure, that's going to be the hierarchy of the courts and high courts. But when it comes to the non-original jurisdiction areas, apart from all these five jurisdictions, courts. For example, you take Allahabad High Court, Odisha High Court, Patna High Court, any high courts, or even district courts also. Then those district courts are, when it comes to the Patna, for example, the other jurisdictions which do not have original jurisdiction, no matter what the pecuniary jurisdiction of the matter is, that particular civil dispute will only be held by the lower courts only. So in those particular matters, the commercial courts has been introduced. The district courts have been converted into the commercial courts, and those matters would be adjudicated only by the commercial courts. And for example, if there's an appeal, there is an appeal which has to be filed out arising out of those commercial courts, then that appeal would be going to the commercial division courts, which would be the high court. That would be the procedure.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the answer, sir. So the next question posed by a participant is,
yes.
So under section 2, subclause C, 2 clause C, subclause 3 of the Act, the provision says that disputes relating to maritime law and admiralty issues.
Yes.
Then why do we have separate Admiralty Court Jurisdiction and Claims Act?
Why do we have to?
Why do we have separate Admiralty Courts Jurisdiction
Definitely.
and Claims Act?
Now those authorities would be merged now. Honorable Supreme Court in a very long back judgment, held that all the courts which have coastlines, all those states will be taking care of the maritime laws, right? So those courts, who have the authorities to and I'm sure that there are a lot of courts which were not working in the capacity of mercantile tribunals, for example, when it comes to Odisha and all that. So when it comes to those areas, commercial courts would be taking place, and in those areas where already mercantile tribunals are being placed, those would be merged with commercial disputes only. And that is why in section 15 it states that all those matters will be transferred to the commercial courts.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the answer, sir. Sir, a question posed by a participant is,
yes.
Commercial dispute which is below rupees 3 lakhs can be tried by a commercial court. So can a commercial dispute which is below 3 lakhs can be tried by a commercial court?
No, not at all. Not at all. The court very clearly says that any commercial dispute has to be above rupees 3 lakh. Earlier it was 1 crore. Definitely, it was a 5-star facility which the Parliament was giving to the litigants. Why? Because definitely the cost would have been high, the stakes would have been high. But under 2018 amendment, it was lowered to rupees 3 lakh, and below 3 lakhs. Definitely, I'm sure that a previous question which was being asked by one of the participants, that what about the Consumer Courts Act and all that. So definitely, below those 3 lakh rupees, tribunals like Consumer Courts Act and all would be taking care of that. But any commercial activity below rupees 3 lakh, and I'm sure there going to be no commercial activity which would be below rupees 3 lakh, because you take any commercial agreement in and out throughout the day. I don't think so there's any commercial dispute which is lower than 3 lakh, apart from the areas where you talk about Meghalaya or Tripura, and that is the only reason where those areas are also lacking behind in commercial activities. So when it comes to areas like Madras, Calcutta, Bombay, Delhi, Chennai, and even Bangalore, even UP, Allahabad High Courts and all that, I'm very much sure that there would be no commercial activity which would be less than 3 lakh. You go and buy anything, small thing, which has an agreement, which lays down, stipulates, certain conditions. I'm sure, we'll be having, an amount more than 3 lakhs. But definitely below that, then we have tribunals, which would be taking care of that. Tribunals, and also the small courts also, which are below district level.
Okay, sir. So thank you for the all the answers which you have given, and thank you for the time which you have taken out and imparted us with the knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you very much.